Good evening. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and thank you for joining me here on Technology Access Television. Well, I'm hoping spring is ready to get sprung because I'm certainly ready for some better weather around this place called Chicago. But nonetheless, business must go on. And our conversation today is all about entrepreneurship, business, and strategic execution in the area of information technology and communications. My guest today is one of the up-and-coming entrepreneurs here in the Chicago area that is starting a business opportunity that seeks to make a big difference, not only in the way enterprises compute and acquire technology solutions, but also folks in the education, nonprofit, healthcare, and other arenas. He's bitten off a lot because this is an exciting area, and in this time within the IT industry and IT services arena, it is quite a moving environment. We've got mobile, we've got all kinds of different trends, the cloud, all of these things are converging and making decisions in this environment very, very difficult. And solution providers are also challenged to have the right skill set and the right tools to implement to make a difference. But nonetheless, it's one of the most exciting times that have ever been for those seeking to make business opportunity, create jobs and wealth and economic opportunity for themselves and their community. And I think my guest today has as good a shot as anyone of making it work right here in this place we call Chicago. My guest today is Shaun Butler from BSM Solutions.
Yes. Thanks for having me, Bruce.
Hey, glad to get you off the sales track and here into this chair to talk about starting your business. But before we delve into BSM Solutions and how that came about, tell us a little bit about Shaun Butler. I know you have a background in corporate IT America. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I am a former corporate salesperson. I spent the probably 90% of my career with one company, Xerox Corporation. Started right out of college, attended Howard University. I'm a graduate of the Howard University School of Business.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
A bison.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so you went to the B school there too?
I did. I majored in business management.
Very good.
And immediately after college, began working with Xerox Corporation on the East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, and worked with the same company for about 15 years straight, and was able to get a lot of good skill sets in terms of foundation.
Did you, just speaking about your Howard experience, how did you end up at Xerox? Did you intern at Xerox sometime during your college experience and then get exposed to them, or did you just get recruited into going to that organization?
You know what? I actually interviewed with Xerox at Howard University.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And yeah, on campus. And I was pretty proud of myself because I was actually the only person they hired that year. But they've hired, obviously, a lot of people over the years from Howard.
A lot of people really need to hear that story because, Howard has got a great program, as we all know.
Absolutely.
A lot of times we think about it for the law school, the medical school, but it's got a business school as well. And I don't think the business schools at HBCUs get enough props. And Howard is one of them. Hampton is another. It's got a great business school.
Absolutely.
And I don't think they get enough props, but people need to know that the big boys come recruiting at the HBCUs just like everybody else. So I'm sure, IBM was there, Xerox was there, Microsoft was there, all of them were there trying to get people like you right off the campus.
You know what? You name a major corporation, regardless of the vertical, and they came through Howard University. When I was in school, which was a little while ago, but I've gone back regularly, and the list keeps growing. I mean, whether it's financial services, I know Goldman Sachs is a regular in terms of interviewing and hiring folks. IBM you mentioned, I'm sure Cisco goes there. Now there are a lot of strategic partnerships that the School of Business at Howard has developed with major corporations. And as you said, it's not just Howard. Hampton University, which actually was one of my accounts early in my career at Xerox, has a lot of great things going on. And FAMU is well noted in terms of putting out excellent business school graduates.
No question about it. And many of those HBCUs have very vibrant internship programs.
They do.
So that means that while people are matriculating through their undergraduate and graduate experiences, some of them can work in the summer. A friend of mine's son, who recently graduated from Howard, for 2 or 3 years, went up to Chrysler, worked in the summer, started making a name for himself, And when it was time for him to graduate, Chrysler threw down a package on his desk, and it was like, we know you're coming here.
Absolutely.
And we want you to be on the management and executive track. You've shown you can handle some responsibilities. And he couldn't have been more excited. So I really wanted to get that out there, that HBCUs are making a big difference in corporate America. But we want to obviously flip that, because that may be something we need to talk about too, is how are the HBCUs showing up when it comes to entrepreneurship? We know that on the campuses of all of the Ivy League schools, the Harvards, the Stanfords, the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, entrepreneurship is all the rage. Was there a little glimmer of entrepreneurship when you were there on the campus in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, there was. Timing is everything. You definitely had some diehard entrepreneur at Howard when I was there, but I came up during that big corporate, boom.
Yep.
And the majority of the people, like myself, were really focused on climbing that corporate ladder, working for a major corporation. My goal was to be a senior executive at a major corporation. But like I said earlier, I go back on a regular basis, and probably about 5 years or so after I graduated, the entrepreneurial program at Howard really took off.
Okay.
When you talk to younger students back then and even now, they're not really interested in staying in corporate America forever. A lot of them want to get that good foundation and work experience early on, but they're looking to go out and do things on their own. A lot of them know about the process to acquire capital to fund your business, whether it be VC or angel money. Those are some things that I knew a little bit about, but I really didn't learn about them in depth until I had been out in the workforce for quite a while. I've got a cousin, actually. It's a graduate of FAMU. His father worked in corporate America, and he had no desire. He had offers. He had no desires to go work for a big company right out of college. He wanted to be an entrepreneur, and he's stuck with it. He's been out for several years now. He's working in consulting now just to pay the bills, but his main goal is to control his own destiny and work for himself and build a company.
Now, you grew up here in the Gary area?
I was born in Gary.
Okay.
Moved away to Detroit at the age of 7. Lived in the state of Michigan for all of my grammar school and junior high school, and came back home for high school, and then left and moved to Washington, D.C.
All right. And then when you worked at Xerox, at first you were based on the East Coast, but then you ultimately ended up coming back to the Chicago area?
I did. I was on the East Coast for the first 5 years of my career, and I came back, worked, my office was in downtown Chicago, and ended up working with the entire Chicagoland area in terms of reps, accounts, Oak Brook, and we had an office in Schaumburg as well.
Now, Xerox is such a anchor entity when it comes to the business community. When I was entering the corporate workforce, there was this program called Xerox Selling Skills, and you were not considered good to go if you hadn't gone through a program like Xerox Selling Skills, or one of the other programs that was a derivative of Xerox Selling Skills. But Xerox had just a mythical image in the community of business, especially in business systems in that arena, because Xerox was a company historically that just would grow, make their number year after year, 20% growth, 15% growth. Executives made all kind of money. I remember reading Black Enterprise and the stories about the black executives at Xerox, and they're driving Ferraris and have houses in the Hamptons and all this kind of stuff. And so you were there during part of that heyday experience. What was it like to work in that environment where blacks were moving up the corporate ladder, making decisions, running divisions, printing money for the corporation? What was that experience like?
It was unbelievable. You mentioned executives being in magazines. One of the reasons why I accepted the offer from Xerox, I had a few coming out of college, was because I read about a guy by the name of A. Barry Rand. who was the president of the United States sales force for Xerox Corporation and one of the highest ranking African Americans at that time in corporate America. And that drew me to the company. Once I began working for the company and I saw that there were so many successful people, it's one thing to hear about it, it's another thing to actually see, feel, touch it, be able to talk to these people. And it motivated me and it kept me there a lot longer than I probably would have stayed had it not been for that experience. And at that time, I don't think there was any other company out there that had as many high-ranking African-American executives, male and female, at one company. And it definitely was unique. And it really was a fantastic experience. And it gave me a foundation that I don't think could be matched by anyone. I had friends that worked on Wall Street. Early on, I was making just as much money as they were, and I felt the training I had was comparable to what they were getting on Wall Street.
So right now, today, Xerox is notable. It's a much smaller company than it was when you were there. Not the bellwether of information services maybe it once was. A smaller company, still a very important company, doing a lot of different things, but nonetheless has a African American female CEO, Ursula Burns. That's a breakthrough in its own right.
Absolutely, absolutely. I left the company right before Ursula was appointed CEO, but I have had the pleasure of speaking to her earlier in my career and watching her, and am definitely proud that she was able to ascend to that position.
I had the pleasure of hearing her give a major speech here in Chicago at the Executives Club. And she, as we both know, has an engineering background. She's a real geek, a real techie.
Absolutely.
But I think it's wonderful because she came up, like you came up in the sales and marketing and management arena. She came up on kind of the engineering and manufacturing side of the house. And yet both of you are role models for that there are continuing opportunities. So whether, it pays to be smart, it pays to get a piece of paper from the MBA program at Howard University. It pays. I think she may have gone to school in Rochester.
I think she went to the Rochester Institute of Technology.
Right.
Yeah.
So it pays to be a geek. And our young people need to see that African Americans like you and like Ursula Burns can succeed in and out of the corporate experience. And now we've got some people in some positions that it would have been hard to imagine those people in those positions 10 or 20 years ago. So let's talk about how then, after having the lifestyle of the rich and famous on the corporate dole, what made you want to jump out here and hang out your own shingle?
Well, you reach a point, and I'd always had an entrepreneurial spirit from the time when I was a kid. I was always finding ways to make money. If my parents said, okay, you can't have a motorcycle unless you pay for it yourself, I would find a way to make money and go get it, or a new TV, or
my mother said you can't have a motorcycle even if you do pay for it, you can't have it.
Well, they didn't want, but they didn't think I would be able to do it. They didn't want me to have it, but once they made that commitment, what could they do? But so I'd always had that spirit or that drive. Even when I worked in corporate, people knew that. They let me do some entrepreneurial things while I was at Xerox. I just reached a point where I thought it was time. The company was starting to change a little bit. I had some really good mentors that kind of left. And you just reach a crossroads. And I said it was going to be now or never. I was in a position where I could afford to take a risk. And I took some time off, did a lot of traveling, did some creative things, pitched a few deals. And I always said that I wanted to do something in the tech space and incorporate all of the experiences and skill sets that I had built up and relationships, that I had built up being a salesperson.
Now you had been in Chicago with Xerox handling major accounts right here in downtown Chicago for a number of years before you started BSM Products. Is that right?
Yeah. I worked in Chicago for 10 years.
Okay.
And dealt with enterprise accounts across a wide array of vertical markets. You name it, I've worked in it.
Now, when you were handling these corporate accounts, did you see any evidence of minority business enterprises, African-American owned businesses also participating in some of the activities that were going on?
No, I didn't see it with the route that I was taking in terms of who I was calling on and who I was dealing with. And I shared a story with you. Actually, I was working on a deal with a company out of Dallas, Texas, and they had a mandate for minority participation.
Yes, right. You did.
And at that time, Xerox, I mean, this was in the late 90s, early 2000s, didn't have a process in place to say, hey, these are a pool of minority VARs or Xerox resellers or businesses that can participate in this very large transaction. And that stood out to me, and that's one of the reasons why I said, if I do it, then I know that there's a void. As I went along later on in life, and definitely since I've been working on my own, I've grown to realize that there are some mechanisms in place with certain corporations on the supplier diversity side that are there to cultivate relationships between major corporations and smaller, disadvantaged, minority, and women-owned businesses.
Okay, all right. So then what year did BSM Products get started? Was it 2011 or 2012? When did you actually formally start the organization?
Well, the corporation has been around for a while. What I did was a paradigm shift.
Okay.
I'm working with my mom. She had a business, and I started initially to just do a company from scratch, but we had infrastructure. I've got an office out in Indiana. We had some relationships that I had cultivated and got some contracts. And I also wanted to have something in the community. So we did a paradigm shift and focused entirely on technology the latter part of 2010.
Okay, all right. So then you've been out here now a couple of years. You went through the normal process of getting certified and getting all the letters behind your company's name of able to do business with the various agencies, both in Indiana and Illinois. You've been able to secure some very significant pieces of business and prove your capacity to deliver. I guess we should say that, in fact, why don't we say that? What are the products and services that BSM offers the market right now?
Okay, what we do is we offer best-in-class technology solutions. What that means is that whether it's hardware, software, IT support, or professional services, we can act as a turnkey solution for businesses, whether it's small businesses in the community, small, medium-sized businesses, and even some corporations as well. There's a value add that we bring to the table. Many of my customers always say, I'm glad I didn't just go online and purchase this PC, for instance, because if you purchase it, you still have to set it up. So you need some intellectual capital, you need some guidance there. And if there are issues along the way, you need people to navigate through the bureaucracy of dealing with these major technology companies who a lot of times have tech support that's offshore. You may or may not be able to understand or get what you need from those folks. And we market and sell best-in-class brands. For instance, we're a Xerox partner, HP, Cisco, Dell, Lenovo, Microsoft, just to name a few.
Okay, all right. Now, when we met the first time, I believe, you were actually supporting a outreach initiative to small businesses. You had a program with our friends out in the southwest side of Chicago.
Yes, yes.
And you had some products and information around a variety of products that fit small businesses. So that people don't get the wrong idea, your clients range from small businesses, small and medium-sized organizations, 5, 10 employees, 20 employees, up through city governments, state governments, corporate, multi-location types of businesses.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of interesting because, there's a lot of difference in serving small and medium-sized business, but I guess because of your commitment and passion of wanting to have some impact at the community level, you remain engaged, not just with the big guys, but you remain engaged with doing business with small businesses and nonprofit organizations as well.
Absolutely, and the smaller businesses have a greater need. And they tend to appreciate a lot of things that we bring to the table, because what my vision was to bring corporate experience and professionalism and know-how to the ground level, if you will.
Now, it's interesting. I certainly, we both have a background in corporate IT. We both have a background in going on our own and having entrepreneurial endeavors in this arena. But it seems like this has been tried many times.
Yeah.
that people have tried to get out here. They say it's not enough of this going on in the community. Let's try to get something. What do you see being some of the impediments to why they're not more of us out here trying to make a go of it in the tech space?
I think there's a lot of different reasons. Capital is probably the biggest one. A lack of a plan, okay, it stands out a lot to me. And perseverance is key as well. Entrepreneurialism is not for the lighthearted. There's a lot of peaks and valleys. I funded my company personally, so I've got a lot of skin in the game, and bills are due. You have to pay.
It sounds like though you've had some strong support from your family. That there is a foundation there within your confines of your direct family, who said, "Hey, if you're going to go out there, we're going to back you. We're not going to call you crazy. We're not going to say, why are you leaving this big
job?" They grew into that.
So they did look at you a little sideways.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And most people that I've talked to that have taken that leap have said the same thing. And it's with a lot of things, people jump on board. I had one relative who was so proud of me because I had worked in corporate America. He was older, had ended up working for a corporation and managed different entities in the Detroit area. And when I left, he was like, what happened? Like, it was almost like he thought I'd lost my mind. But he eventually came around once he saw that I was serious, that I was sticking to my guns, and that I'd had some wins. So it definitely, if you believe in yourself, that's the most important thing. And you're always going to have people, even if they care about you, that may say, wait a minute, that's risky. Don't do it. They're not risk takers. So, but if you've got a good plan, you've got the skill set, and you also have to have capital, you know how to get capital to sustain yourself and for growth, then you should have some success. And you got to give it time.
Now let's talk about when you look at all throughout your Xerox corporate career, you had a laser focus on your customers. You knew who your customers were, you knew what your number, you knew how you was going to go get your number. As you are an entrepreneur, and you got that whole world in front of you, now nobody can restrict you and say your territory is this side of I-57 or this side of I-88. Now you can go anywhere you want to go. Now, where do you go? How do you narrow your niche to create a value proposition that gets traction with a certain type of customer focus? Well, how have you created a solution or customer focus within where you go to get business?
Well, there's a variety of ways you do it. You have to have a plan. My plan revolved around a couple verticals, healthcare being one of them. I had some relationships in healthcare, and I knew that IT, in particular within the healthcare space, was a growth area with meaningful use and the electronic medical records boom. That was where I wanted to lay my foundation, if you will. Okay, and then you also have to know where people are buying your goods and services. Whether at the ground level, it could be, churches in the community, school systems. Okay, I already mentioned healthcare. Law is an area where there's a lot of technology that's needed. State and local government. A lot of folks, and we haven't really focused on that area yet, but we're looking at the federal space as well. There's a lot of opportunities that are in the federal space. But you have to know where people buy your goods, your services. And with me, it helped that I had already thought through this before I jumped in the waters, and I had actual relationships where people knew that I was credible. They knew my background, and they had faith in me. And once you start getting referenceable clients, if you know how to market yourself, then others will come.
Now, you've spent a lot of time, like you say, before jumping in the water, creating a plan.
Yes.
And one of your plans was to line up some household names to be behind you. So you said, I'm not going to get out here selling, off-brand stuff. I'm going to go with best-in-class solutions.
Yes.
And so that means people like HP or Microsoft or IBM or Xerox. Have you found those organizations, which are gigantic organizations, supportive of the kinds of things you need in order to break through and get traction and begin to grow, and so that you can be a job creation and an opportunity engine? Because as we both know, some of these industries, everybody talks about, all the jobs in IT, all the jobs in IT. But some people aren't seeing those job opportunities because those opportunities aren't in areas where they have access to it. But yet there's business opportunities everywhere that if that business opportunity could be capitalized on, then an organization like yours could create tens of hundreds of jobs in these arenas. So are you getting the kind of support you would like from these Goliaths to help you scale up and be able to deliver high quality services and also create jobs in your own community?
Well, there are a couple that stand out, and it's work in progress.
Okay.
But I have had some positive things happen as a result of relationships I've built up with major manufacturers that have allowed me to go after business that is beyond the size and scope of where I am right now. And I've worked closely with major manufacturers and formed partnerships. And I'm continuing to try to grow the number of manufacturers that will get on board and partner with me. Other than just that, every relationship I have is formal, but this second or third level is, to your point, a real partnership, and we're working on that. And I have a few that have been very receptive.
And is your goal to create BSM Solutions as a regional player with not only facilities in Chicago and Indiana, but maybe looking at facilities in Michigan and really creating a breadth of capacity in these markets that you've worked in previously? Absolutely.
And again, I did my research before I jumped in. There have been several examples, not enough, but there was a company where it was a former Xerox guy that had basically did what I'm doing now 10, 15 years ago, and he has a significant business, and he has presence in at least, I think, 4 other locations. And that was also a driving force, because I figured with my background, I should be able to do that because I've had just as much experience as he did, and or more, particularly with enterprise accounts.
Well, I'm very delighted to talk with you. I was very delighted to meet you and find out about your company. We have a lot of shared paths. It's a wonder we didn't meet each other out there on the battlefield before now.
I'm surprised we didn't, yeah.
But Shaun Butler of BSM Management is really one of the up-and-coming solution providers. All kinds of organizations are acquiring technology, be they hospitals, be they schools, be they nonprofit organizations. And you don't have to go to Office Depot, Best Buy, Amazon. There are people right in our own community that have the goods, have the tools, and have the ability to support it. And I suggest we start looking within before we look without to bring this kind of talent to bear, because this is where the best and the brightest are working. And I'm going to have you back, because we're going to have to talk about the talent aspect of this game. Okay. What kind of